Hi, this is Amber from the A-Team. I want to go over with you how to create Google Sites. This is a basic overview of the things that you should consider before creating your site, and we're going to go over some simple ways to set up a very basic website for your classroom. The first thing that I want to pull over and show you, one of the things that you may want to consider using is something called a website planning guide, where you sit down and you think about what kinds of things do you want to provide to parents, to students, to visitors to your website. Um, in this planning, I've simply made just a little chart of the kinds of things I want to put on my website. I know I want to have a home page. That's that first page that comes up with maybe some contact information, a welcome message to my classroom. I'd like to have a page of student resources, and maybe on that I'm going to put a little bit about my teaching philosophy and perhaps some expectations of my classroom with regard to behavior and classwork. I also want to be sure that I reach out to parents and have a parent resource page where maybe I have some parental support expectations or some suggestions for parents, some helpful links and resources and things that will help them support their students in my classroom. And I know I also want to have some news because I want to have a place where I can share the great things that are going on in my classroom. Now, once you consider the main areas of your website, sometimes those main areas then get linked off to other areas. For example, as part of my student resources page, I also want to have a place for homework assignments and maybe some files, some resource files, places where they can go and get agendas or vocabulary worksheets or whatever support guides I think I'm going to provide to my students. With regard to parent resources, I also might want to have an area that talks about the curriculum. And near my news area, I would like for there to be a link to an image gallery, some pictures I'm going to be taking in my classroom. So the basic premise of this is to think about who is your website for? Is it mainly for students? Is it mainly for parents? Is it a mixture? And also, what kinds of content do you want to share with your people who visit your site, whoever your intended audience is? So sitting down and doing some pre-planning is really important because this guide is going to help me be able to know what pages I need on my website and what type of pages might be more appropriate. So I'll pull this back over later so we can see how we're doing on our planning. But to get started on creating a Google site, you're going to access the waffle, and in the waffle icon, you're going to find the Sites app. So I'm going to click on the Sites app. If you don't have any sites, this area is going to be blank here, but I have a couple that I've been playing with, so that's why I have some that show up here. But this does go to show you that you can have multiple sites for multiple purposes. You could create a site that's just for students and a site that's for parents. So there are lots of different ways you can actually use Google Sites. So I'm going to go ahead and to the left and use the red Create button, and I'm going to click Create so that we can begin to create a site. Now, let's stop here and let's talk about templates. Templates are helpful to some who have more web experience perhaps than others, but templates are available in all sorts of formats. They come with preset pages, preset links, and some people find these easier if they've had any web experience before. But what I'm going to take us through today is using a blank template because I'd like for us to see what Google Sites can do at a basic level, and then you may want to go back later and create a different site and use the gallery to look for some templates. Now, one of the things that I recommend to people who are just beginning to make a website is to create actually a fake website, one where you can go and play and try things, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't matter because no one has access to it but you. So I'm going to create a play site here, and this is going to be sort of my place that I go and I try things, but you could actually use this as your real classroom website, so it's just up to you. One thing to remember is that the site that you're creating, there can only be one site named exactly the thing that you're naming it in the entire district, because they're very specific. You might want to make sure that you put some things in there that will probably not be something that someone else has. So I'm going to put Miss McMillan's class test site, and that's only because I want to make sure that I have one that I can play with. You'll notice as I'm typing the name here, I want to make sure that I put capitals in the right places and spaces in the right places, because this is actually has the potential to show up on your site. And you'll notice that what happens down here is that Google is starting to create a URL or a web address for my website, and it's taken out any capitals and any punctuation and spaces. It's put dashes where there are spaces or other punctuation, so that it creates an actual website for your Google site. And you'll notice once I'm finished, if I want to provide someone with this link, like my webmaster, who will need the link to my website to add it to the school staff page, I would give them this entire URL. This is static for everyone in the district. And then after the slash is going to be your customized URL, so you'll want to provide this entire URL to your webmaster. So now that I have a title, I'm going to scroll down and go to select a theme. Themes are a little more basic way to start instead of templates, and themes are basically like skins. It's how do you want your page to look? What kind of design do you want to have? And you'll notice when I scroll through here, there are lots of different ones. Some have very specific themes. Some are more color oriented or pattern oriented, but let's say I would like to use the schoolhouse one because it looks like a little chalkboard, and I want to have that one, so I'm going to use that one today. But you can choose any of these, and themes are interchangeable, so if you decide you don't like it, you can select a different theme later. I'm going to go ahead and choose the schoolhouse theme, and I'm going to scroll down to the bottom. There is a more options area, and I'm going to go ahead and open this. We don't have a lot of sites that require the use of categories, but you'll notice certain categories like marketing, finance, you can put a category there, but we are not utilizing those in our district. You can put a description, but again, for the most part, we're just using these for classroom websites. So these are certainly optional. So I'm going to close that, and I'm going to scroll back up to the top and make sure everything's ready. I've got my template chosen. My template is the blank template. I've got my theme chosen, and I have my title. So once I'm ready, I'm going to click Create. And it's going to begin to create my site. It's building all the things that it needs, the website address, it's putting the title in for me, and it's choosing that template. So now you'll notice I have this template, this main page here it's going to open up to, and this is my chalkboard theme. If I decided at this point that I didn't like it, I could certainly go back and change it, but we're going to look at just the basics of what we have. Right now, we have one page on our site, and that's our home page. That's the first page that comes up when you are building your website. It's the main site. It's the first impression for your site. So before we start actually adding content to this, I want to take us to a few other places so that we can start thinking about what we're going to be doing with this site, and then we'll get into how to actually put content and edit content on the pages. So the first thing I'm going to do is direct you to the top, and we're going to take a look at the icons in the upper right. The first icon is the pencil icon. Anytime you want to edit a page, if you're looking at the page that you want to edit, clicking the pencil icon will open it in edit mode, and we'll do that in just a moment. Anytime you're on a page in your website and you realize you'd like to create a new page, the paper icon with the plus sign allows you to create a new page. We'll be creating some of those later because I remember that I wanted to do student resources and parent resources and news as well. To the right of that is the gear icon, and that's going to give you more actions. And we're actually going to click on that gear icon and take a look at some of the things in here before we actually start building our site, so that we can make sure that we're setting up the site the way that we want it. To do that, I'm going to scroll down and find Manage Site. This is the setting for the entire website. So I think it's pretty important for me to start with this so that I know exactly what it is that I want to do with my site and make sure that it's set appropriately. So I'm going to click on Manage Site. In this area, you'll notice on the left, there are lots of different things that I can manage about my site. The first one that comes up are the general settings. Again, this shows the name of my site. This is where you have the option to show the name on the top of the pages or not. So that's just a simple checkbox, yes or no. This also is where if you had placed categories, those categories would appear here. There also is a place to put a site notice. I'll bring this up only because sometimes people like to put something such as this website contains links to outside resources and we're not responsible for content on outside resources. Sometimes that is something that people like to do, so that's there. Again, there's the section on site description had you chosen that. I bring you here as well to show you that in this setting, you have to go to Manage Site if you decide at some point you want to delete your site. It's kind of hidden in here, so if you choose to delete this after you play around with it and experience some of the things in Google Sites, if you don't want to keep that one, this is how you would delete it. But for now, we're going to keep going. In each Google site, because Google is the original search engine, we're going to decide if we want to configure the search option that's built into your website. So I'm going to click on Configure Search because I want you to see what Google can do for you. There will be a Google search bar if you want it somewhere in your design that you've chosen, and your design may look a little bit different than mine, so it might be in a different place. But first of all, you can decide whether or not you want to have a search bar in your site so that visitors can search for content. I want that because if my students come to my site and they're looking for something particular, I want them to be able to search. It's defaulted to only search your website. So if they type a search into the search bar on your site, it's going to search the content that you have on your site. If you would like for it to also search other sites in Henderson County Public Schools, you can also place a check here and say I'd like for it to search that as well. If you only want it to search for google.com, you can also check that as well. There's also an advanced tab. I wouldn't worry about adding a provider because we're using Google, and so let's just leave it at Google Sites. So since I've decided that I want to enable search and use it at this site, I'm going to click OK. Now I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of this page. There is a section that a lot of people are very passionate about, so I want to make sure that I show this to you. There is a section called commenting. Google allows for people who are making Google sites to turn on and turn off the ability for page viewers to comment on your site. If you would like page viewers to comment, this is where you would go in and place a check mark. We will caution you, however, that if you allow page viewers to comment, you are opening yourself up to allow them to comment on anything both positive and negative to your site. I'm going to remove that because I personally don't want someone commenting on my site. Let's move down to sharing and permissions. Notice if I click on something else on the left, I get this pop-up that says, wait a minute, you haven't made any changes. So I'm going to stay on this page and then save my changes. Once my changes are saved and I get this alert at the top, then I can click on the next icon. Now I'm going to go to sharing and permissions. Most of you have already had some experience with Google Docs, so you're familiar with this sharing and permissions link. Now this link is inviting people to help you edit your website. So if I wanted to, let's say, have Amber help me edit my website, I can give her edit capabilities. I can also just allow her to view it, or I can transfer her ownership to her, but I'm going to allow her to edit it because she and I co-teach and I want her to be able to edit this site with me. So I can actually send her a notification that will place her with the ability to edit the website. So now I know that Amber can help me edit it. So if I run into any problems, one of the things you might want to consider is adding your webmaster as an editor to your site. Previously, if you were with us and you used Rapid Web Designer or RWD with First Class, all webmasters had the ability to edit your site without you having to actually take the initiative to give them edit rights. They had the ability to do that anyway. This is a little different in that you have to actually provide people with rights to your site. So we would highly recommend that you place your webmaster as an editor if you feel like you're going to need some help in working on your site. So now I've shown that Jane Doe is me and I'm the owner, and I want to give Amber the rights to edit my site. At any time, if I change my mind, I can go and decide to change rights, or I can even remove this person. Okay, so that's sharing and permissions. Now I do want to go back here to themes, colors, and fonts because I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the things in your website. Remember that I decided I wanted to use Schoolhouse as my theme or my skin for my site. This is where if I decided that really wasn't what I wanted to use and I want to change it to something else, I can actually go and change my theme and see what it will look like. What I like about this is that you get a preview at the bottom, so you can go ahead and decide which theme that you may like. So I'm going to go ahead and decide I'm going to stick with this red theme. Now, once you've chosen your theme, you do have some granular editing that you can do in terms of changing the fonts, changing the sizes, and changing some of the colors. But I'm going to go ahead and leave this the way it is, and I'm going to go ahead and click Save, and I'm going to only utilize this really to change the theme. These other areas are if you want to get really granular. So now that I've gone into my gear and I've made some changes, notice on the top left, in this left-hand sidebar, it says my website's name. At any time, if I'm ready to go back to my site, I can click that button, and now I'm going to come back to my website so that I can begin to work on some editing. So now here's that search bar that we were talking about. Now, once I bring my page back up, and this is one of the things that we like to talk about because we want you to look at your site the way other people see it, I don't necessarily like how this bumps down to this next line here. So maybe what I want to do is go back to my manage site and look at a theme that perhaps doesn't twist it around to the bottom. So that's one of the things that we want you to keep doing, is try things and see if you like the way they look. And if you don't like the way they look, the good thing is you can always change them. So these different ones, maybe I want to look at the legal pad and see if that makes any difference, and it's still popping down here on the bottom. So we can keep making changes until we get the one that we like. These are completely customizable. So now that I have this one, let's say I really, really, really want to use that red one, and I didn't really like the others, but I like that red one, but I really don't like how this wraps around. One of the things that we talked about was using these granular settings, and since this is the header of my website here at the top, I can actually go to title, and right now I can see what that what size that title is. So maybe I want to try to move that to a different size, and I notice when I get it to 24 it wraps around. So I'll just leave it here and I'll click Save, and now from that point forward the size of that is different. So that's a good way to come and try to make some little tweaks so that you can get it to look the way that you like it. So I'm going to go back to the site now that we've taken a look at the Manage Site Layout option. Now, before I continue, I do want to talk about one thing that you might want to consider. I'm going to bring back over our website planning guide. Right now, all I have is my home page. But I know that I need a student resources page, a parent resources page, and a news page. So one of the things that you might want to go ahead and do so that you can kind of see how this works is to go ahead and create the pages so that you know how many pages you're going to have and what content goes on them. So I'm going to go ahead to the Create Page button. And I'm going to go ahead and create, I know I need student resources. So I'm going to go ahead and create a student resources page, and I'm going to put that page at the top level because I want it to show up as a link on the left-hand sidebar. We'll be talking a little bit more about these templates in just a little bit, but for now, I just want to create a page. So I'm going to click Create. What happens is you'll be taken back to your website. And I'm going to go ahead and save this page because it kind of brings me in edit mode. And I want you to see what's happening. Now, I have a home page and I have a student resources page. I didn't have to put the link over here. The great thing is as soon as I created that page, it showed up on the left. So now I know I also need parent resources. So I'm going to go ahead and make my parent resources page. I'm going to also put it at the top level because I want it to show up right on the side. I'm going to click Create. I'm going to get this in edit mode, but I'm going to go ahead and save it because I'm not actually going to put content on here yet, but I want you to see what's starting to happen. I have home, I have parent resources, and I have student resources. It will automatically alphabetize your links. If you want them in a different order, you're going to have to do some changing, and I'll take you through that in just a minute. So now I'm going to do my final page that I know of for right now, and that's my news page. And this is when we're going to take a look at the different templates here, because there is the option to have something called announcements. And announcements is similar to a blog. So if I choose the announcements format, then I'm going to actually have a news blog where I can make posts on my page, and we'll show you what that looks like in just a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and click Create. Once that comes up. So we've got home, news, parent resources, student resources, and then we have a site map. And the site map, if I open that up, it's going to just show basically all your pages that are on your site. Now, I don't know if you noticed this, but when I had my home page, that was exactly what that is. It's just a blank page. But when I clicked on my parent resources page, you notice how I have a comment field at the bottom? Well, I kind of thought I turned that off. Well, the one thing about Google is as soon as you're adding new pages, it's going to automatically turn this comments back on. So one of the things that you're going to want to do is as soon as you have a page and you've created it and you see this comments box here, what you're going to want to do is go up to the gear that's on the page that you're wanting to edit. And now instead of going to Manage Site, we're actually going to go into Page Settings. Those are the settings that are just specific to this page. When I click on page setting, notice what's here, allow comments. I don't want to allow comments, and I actually don't want to allow attachments to this page. I just want it to be a page with content. And I'm going to click Save. Once I check that, now it looks just like my home page, and that right now all it has is a title and a white area for space. So I'm going to go down to Student Resources. You see again, here's my folder option to add files, and now I have more comments. So I'm going to go back to the gear, go to Page Settings, and make sure that I turn off anything that I don't want to display on the page. As soon as I hit Save, those things go away. The same thing happens on your news page as you make posts, and we'll talk about that later. But you'll notice when I click on News, there are no comments at the bottom of the page right now. So we've got 4 main pages right now that we can start using. So I'm actually going to go to the home page, and I want to look at some editing tools. So I'm going to click on this Edit pencil. And once it's in edit mode, it starts looking very similar to what you see in Google Docs, and that you have some editing tools across the top that look like Google Docs editing tools, and you have these little fields that you can type in. Well, I'm not going to change the name of this page because I want it to stay named Home. But anytime you want to add content to your page, you're simply going to type your content here. So if I wanted to say, welcome to my site, my classroom site, I'm glad you stopped by to visit. Okay, so I can keep adding content here. I can change the size of my font by changing my sizes here. So maybe I want it to use 12. I also have some tools at the top. I can center my text if I want to and left justify it. I also have the option to do some basic things like bold, italicize, and do some other things. You also have the ability to do some linking. So we'll look at that in a minute, but I just wanted to show you how simple it is to simply add some text, and as soon as you're finished adding text, you simply click save, and then you've got some content in your page here. So let's say I wanted to put an image on this site because it looks a little bare on my welcome page, and perhaps I want a picture of some of my students. To add an image, you go to Insert Image, and you can upload some images. That one that you saw there was one I had uploaded before. And when you go to your images, you can select anything that's on any of your drives. If you have a thumb drive, if you have some things on your desktop or your T drive, M drive, whatever it is, wherever it is that you have some images. And so I'm going to say that I have some sample images that I want to use here, and I'm going to look at this logo that we have for Henderson County, and let's say I want to use this logo. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. One of the things that you'll notice is as soon as you've entered, you get this little box that anytime you click on your image, it comes up. The first thing is it tells that the picture is going to a link. Right now, if someone clicks on this picture, it's saying, I'm going to take you to this particular picture in a page all by itself. Well, maybe if they click here, I want them to go to the Henderson County Public Schools website. So I can actually click change here and say, you know what, I don't want you to go to this picture all by itself on a page. Maybe I want you to go to hcpsnc.org. And let me go ahead and put the HTTP in front of that. And maybe I want that to open in a new window because I don't want this to take over my site. I want my site to stay here, and I'm going to click OK. So now what this says is if someone clicks on that picture, they're going to go to this website. Now notice you also have remove because maybe you don't want anything to happen when the picture is clicked on. This is also super helpful if you're doing a site for perhaps elementary students or students with special needs who maybe need to click on a picture to take them somewhere. You can upload your pictures and change the URLs to which they link. Now, down underneath that, there are some image settings. You have your left, center, and right justification tools to put your image on your page. You also have the ability to change the size to simply, now we can say we want small, medium, and large, or perhaps you just want the original size, so you have some settings there. You also have some text wrapping settings. You can turn the wrap on or you can turn the wrap off. I'm going to leave mine here because I want mine at the top, but I am going to also center this text down here so that this is right here in the middle. So maybe I want to say who I am and my name is, and put some more information. So I'm going to click save so you see what happens there. So now I have my picture, I have the text of my site. So that's a little simple way, and notice when I hover over that picture I get the hand, which is going to take me to the hcpsnc.org website. So now that's simple putting text in the page in a simple image. So I'm going to take you to the student resources page because this is where I said that I wanted to make sure that I put some expectations. I also wanted to link to some homework assignments, and I also wanted to link to some other resources. I'm going to click on the pencil and we're going to talk about adding links. So on the student resources site, perhaps, I have some text about some expectations for students, and then maybe I want to have some homework links that I want to have for my students. And maybe I want to list some of the things that I would like the site to link to. So I'm going to have this be my research site that I'm doing. Maybe I want to make sure that they go to NC Wise Owl or some other things that I want here as well. To make a link, I'm going to highlight whatever it is that I want to link somewhere. Once it's highlighted, you can click on the Add Link icon. What's going to come up right away is linking to a page because it thinks I want to link to another page on my site. If you're wanting to do that, those pages are here and you would simply click on the page. But if you're wanting to link to somewhere else, like a web address, this is where you would go in and put that web address. I've actually copied the Wise Owl page, so I know I can right click and paste. So there's the web address. Now, since this is not my website, I want to make sure it opens in a new window and they don't lose mine. Then I'm going to click OK. And so now what I have is a link to the NC Wise Owl site. And if I click on this link, I always have the option to change or remove that link. Since this is sort of a title here for a list of links, I'm going to maybe make that bold. And maybe since these are going to be links, I want to kind of indent them a little bit so it looks like these links are under that content. So now I'm going to click Save and see what this looks like for my students. Now naturally I would not leave this text on here, but I just wanted to show you how you could make that text go quickly. Here are my homework links, and notice when I get over NC Wise Owl, I now have a link. So what that's going to do is just simply open up in a new tab or a new page for me, and now I have that link as well. So it's simple to add those links. So I'm going to take us to the news page because that's one of those that we chose a different page type. And you'll notice it looks differently because I have a big button here that says New Post, and it says there are currently no posts. So it tells me that you don't have any posts, but you can click on New Post and create one. Now what this page is going to be a place where I can go click New Post anytime I want to put some news up on my website very quickly, but it's all going to be attached to this page. So let me show you an example. So let's say I have a field trip coming up, so I'm going to go ahead and make a post. So I'm going to click the New Post button. Once I've done that, it shows me, okay, you have an untitled post. What do you want to call it? So I'm going to call this Field Trip News. And maybe I'm going to put, information about where we're going. I could put some links here, some other content. And I want to make sure that that's there. I might even want to add a picture of where it is that we're going. And when I'm finished, I can either save draft or I can save it. Save draft would be when I'm not finished with it yet. I don't want to post it. I just started it, but I had to step away. Save as I'm ready to post it. Once you click Save, now on your news page, you're going to have this link to this post. So I'm going to go back to the news page for just a minute so that you'll see what this looks like. To you have a post called Field Trip News, and you see all the news about it. You will have the edit button, which your visitors will not see. You will see the new post button, but they will not. But do you see what's happened up here? Now I have a box over my news that shows I have more pages underneath. So what you'll see is as this begins to grow and as you make new posts, these are going to appear sort of as pages beneath it. But it's really quick if you're wanting to make news. You don't have to go and make a new page. You just simply make a new post. So the next time I want to make a new post, when I click on the new post button, and I'm going to say, we have a test on Friday, and here's what you need to study all these things and whatever else I want to say, and here's, a list of things that I want to make sure that we do. I'm actually even going to number these things because there's a numbering tool, and once I'm finished, I can click Save. So now what happens is I have two news posts. So if I go back to my news page, you'll notice that my newest news is on the top, and as newer news comes, it's going to replace that, and they're simply going to move down. But you'll also notice that you now have two links so that someone can see that there are several posts on the news page. If I only want to see one post, I can come over here and click on the left and I'll only see one. But if I want to see all the posts, I can click on news and I'll see them all in succession. Now it won't make one extremely long page. As it gets longer, you'll notice there are toggle buttons left and right so people can start scrolling through your news. We have seen some teachers using this to post homework assignments. Some use it for actual, just for news. It's up to you, but the great thing is, as soon as you create a new post, you have the ability to put resources, links, and other information here. So you could use it as a homework posting thing, or you could use it for general news for your class. I'm going to save this draft because I started it, but I'm not quite finished with it. And you'll notice that I saved it, but it doesn't show up on my post with my other pages. So that's there, should you want to use that for perhaps for your news. One thing we did want to point out about the news posts, here you don't see any commenting options because when you're on the news page, they're sort of condensed. If you do open up one of your posts, you will notice that those options came back to add files and add comments. So on each post, if you go up to the gear and you choose page settings, you will also have to remember to disallow attachments and comments if that's something that you truly don't want on your site. Some teachers are using this so that students can post questions to homework assignments, or parents can ask questions. This is just up to you. And at any time, you can come and turn these back on. So you can decide if that's something that will work for you or not, to have those comments and file upload buttons there. If you go to the gear sprocket at the top right-hand corner, there's also the option to edit site layout. So I'm going to click on the edit site layout because I want you to see this, as this is an important piece of making the site work for you. One of the things that you can do is you'll notice when I hover here that I get some tools that I haven't seen before. I can actually even move these things around because there's some things I can even get rid of them. But notice there's a little link that says edit sidebar item. So I want to click on that and edit the sidebar item. Here I can actually decide if I want to show a link to the sitemap or not, and even if I want to add a link to show recent site activity. Also, if I don't want this called navigation, I can change the name of that as well. But this is the part that, if I were you, I would make sure to always leave checked, and that's automatically organize my navigation. That means it's going to make sure that it always adds any new page directly to your site. However, if you did want to deselect this, you can decide what pages to show. This is helpful for some because they want to have links on the left-hand side that go to external websites. So they may want to have a box that says math links and decide what pages go there, or a box that says science links or that kind of thing. But I like to leave mine organized because I don't like to think about remembering to come over here and add those pages. So I'm going to leave that there. So let's take a look at the other options here that you have at the top. The header is going to be turned on by default so that it always shows the name of your website. We recommend that you leave the header on. This, however, is an option that you might want to enable or disable depending on whether or not you like it. Some like to also put links at the top of the page. A horizontal navigation adds buttons across the top of your site, and you'll notice there's a home button here. If you do that, you can make choices about what you want to put in your navigation that goes across the top. So to show you how this works, I'm going to add a URL across the top, and I want to make sure that anybody knows that they can always get back to the HCPS website. And I'm going to put that URL there. And I want that to open in a new window. So I want that site to be at the top, but I also want to add a link maybe back to my school website. So if I'm at Atkinson, I can also put the web address for Atkinson there as well. I'll also have this open in a new window, and I'll click OK. So now I'm going to have 3 buttons across the top. So I can also decide if I want them to be tabs, links, or boxes, and I'll show you what that means. Right now, they're boxes. So they're boxes across the top that will take you to different places. And then I've got the sidebar on the side. You can choose to use these for different purposes, or you can have them similar. Maybe you want your website pages across the top and you want to get rid of this sidebar. It's just up to you. So I'll come back here just so you can see what the tabs look like. Some people like to have this view because then it looks like their tabs, like website tabs. So that's just up to you. I'm going to choose to use the boxes. So I'm going to close this editing bar so that you can see what's starting to happen. I have buttons across the top and I have navigation down the side. It's just up to you how you would like to organize that. And the more you play with it, the more you'll see what you like. I'm going to go back to edit site layout for just a minute because I do want to show you one other feature. There is the ability to add a custom footer. This is another place where some people like to put something like links to we don't take responsibility for links to outside web sources. So here I have our site has links to outside resources, and I'm going to center that because I'd like that to be for that to be on the center of the page, and I'm also going to make it bold so that you can see what this looks like. So now in this footer I have this disclaimer, our site has links to outside resources, whatever. This could also be a place where you might put your address, your school address, or some phone numbers, or any other content that you want to show up on every single page. So you don't have to remember to type it each time because this is the whole site's layout. So when I click close, you can see that I've started to build some different things here. So now I have my home page that we put some content in. I have my news page, which we're using as a blog sort of format that we're using for posts. We haven't really put anything on the parent resources page, but on the student resources page, we talked about how to make links. I'm going to go to the parent resource page for a moment and we'll look at some of the other things that might be helpful for you to use with your Google site. In the insert menu on a page, there are lots of different options. We talked about inserting an image and how to make a link. There are some other things that we would like to point out to you as well. We're going to skip over the gadgets and we're actually going to go over to the Google section of insert. This might be a place where you want to insert a calendar into your page. For example, maybe I want my parents to always have access to a calendar of things going on in my classroom. So I'm going to say, you know, please see our calendar below for upcoming events. And maybe I want to insert the calendar there. So I'm going to go to Insert and over to the Google section, and I'm going to click on Calendar. When you click on Calendar, it's going to show every calendar that you have access to. So that could be intense, or it could be just a few, depending on what it is that you do. But I'm going to use the Macmillan's class calendar here. And I'm going to click select, and once I've done that, you'll notice there's one calendar there. Now you notice you can choose to display other calendars, so maybe I want to display my class calendar, but I also want to make sure that I put the traditional schedule calendar on there because I want parents to know when we are out of school. So I'll click select. So now I've got two calendars that are going to go here. Now you can play a little bit with the height and width, but I'm going to let Google do that for me. In the view, you can decide if you want to show a week view, a month view, or the agenda view. I'm going to leave mine in the month view because that looks like the calendar format that most people are accustomed to. You can choose your time zone if you want, but most of the time we don't have to worry about that as we're in the same time zone. But then there's some other options here. Do you want to show all the tabs so they can decide whether to show week, month, or agenda? Do you want to put the title on the calendar, the name of the calendar? Do you want them to have some navigation buttons? Do you want a border around it? And for this title, I'm going to change the title. So I'm going to say class calendar with traditional schedule. So they'll know that there are two calendars there. So I'm going to click Save. Now when you first see this, you may look at it and say, what did I just do? Because there's this gray box here that makes no sense. Well, one thing to keep in mind is right now we're still looking at it in the view mode. So there are going to be some things that look very different about it once we save it. But I do want to show you before we save, there is a gear icon, which is how you get back to these options should you decide to make any changes. There's also the option to center and justify it certain ways, and you can decide to turn on the wrap or not. But once I click save, you'll be able to see what this calendar looks like. So now I have please see our calendar below, and you'll notice that because I put both calendars on, I have lots of events on my calendar already. I didn't have to make this look good. I didn't have to make it make sense. All I had to do was go and insert the calendar. Now what parents can do is when they come to the site, they can click on this plus sign and actually add that Google Calendar to their own calendar and subscribe to it. Remember, I also chose to have the week, month, and agenda views, so they can view them in different formats if they'd like, just here as they're clicking, and there's also some navigation tools. So this is a good tool that you can add something very quickly to your site. So now on this Parent Resources site, I also have a calendar. Now I'm going to go back to the Student Resources page for just a moment, and I'm going to click on my Edit Page icon, and we're going to look at something that we can add to the Students page. Now on the Students page, I'm also going to go to Insert and see what some of the other options are. Now we've already talked about adding a calendar, but perhaps I have something in Google Drive that I want to put onto my website that I've already labeled as public to everyone. So I'm going to choose to have a Google document on my Student Resources page, and maybe because I know that they've had some homework and we've been working on our digital storytelling. I know there's a storyboard template that I want them to use. So I'm going to find what it is in my Google Doc folder in Google Drive, and I'm going to click Select. I'm going to make some choices. Do I want a title on it? Do I want a border around it? I'm just going to leave these standard. And again, you get that gray box. I can always go back into my settings by going to the gear, and I'm going to click Save so that you can see what this looks like. So now I have information on my page and I have links, but I also have provided an embedded version of whatever it is in my Google Drive onto my website. So this is a great way to display some content onto your website that to make changes, anytime I go to my digital storytelling template and make changes, it's going to actually update on my website because this is sort of just a window to that site, or to that document rather. So let's click on the pencil once more. And I did want to just show you there are other things that you can add as well. From Google Drive, this is a great place to put in a Google form. Perhaps you have a form that you want your students to fill out. I have this exit ticket. I want to make sure that they fill out their exit ticket before they leave the classroom. So I'm going to click Save. And so now they've got this Google Doc up here, but if they scroll down, they also have this exit ticket that they can fill out as well. Now I'm glad this did this because I want you to see what this looks like. This doesn't look very good small like this. So if I want to change the settings for that, I click my pencil, I go down to my Google form, I'm going to click on properties, and you see how this is already set to be skinny, and it says if I leave it blank it'll be 100% of the page width. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and click save so that you'll see that you have some control over the way it looks, and now I've got this great thing that fits on the page now. So there's different things that you can insert into your documents as well. So as you can see, there are lots of things that you can add to your pages using the tools in Insert and finding the different files that or add-ins that you would like to put on your page. Google Sites makes this pretty easy. I do want to take a few minutes to talk about adding email to your web page. So I'm going to go to my home page because I'd like to put some contact information on my home page so that parents and students will know how to email me. So one of the things that we recommend that you do when you're trying to add email to your page is to be aware of policy 631. that talks about not adding a direct link to your email on your website. And by this, the policy means don't put your email address directly onto your site. Like, don't type in a person at hcpsnc.org and just leave it as a link on your page. And this is simply to protect you from spiders that go out and look for anything that looks like a website address and then start spamming you. So to protect you, we have an HCPS webmail form that we want you to use in lieu of typing your email address on your page. So there is a link on how to do this. I'm going to pull this document over to kind of show you where this information comes from. This is how to add email to your website. What you're going to do is type in a link, and that link might say click here to email me or email me. And then what you're going to do is look at this URL, and you are going to place your username in this field. And by username, that's anything that comes before the @hcpsnc.org email piece. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this because this is the link that I'm going to want to use to add to my website. So I'm going to pull this back over, and I'm going to go onto my home page and click my pencil because I want to do some editing. And after I've typed in this information, I just want to say click here to email me. So I want the word here to be a link to that special webmail form. So I'm going to go up and choose the link. And instead of a sites page, this is going to be a web address. And I'm going to paste this exactly from the document in here, but what I'm going to make sure that I do is change username to my username. So I'm going to put my username, that's exactly typed in, my first initial, middle initial, last name, which is the typical thing that comes before the @hcpsnc.org. And I'm going to choose to open this in a new window. And I'm going to click OK. So now what you'll see is it says click here to email me, and the here is going to be a hyperlink. So I'm going to save that and click on it so that you can see what this does. So once I click on here, it's going to open up a new tab, which takes me to the Contact Us page for the website. Now what will happen is the person coming to your site will fill in this information. They will enter the information for the CAPTCHA, and they will click Send Email. And this will go directly to your Gmail mailbox, but your email address is never displayed on the page. So again, make sure that you don't simply come into your page and type your email address. Use that mail form link instead. So after you get all the pages ready to at least have your initial launch of your website, you're going to want to make sure that your website is ready for display. So I'm going to go to the Share piece, and we're going to do some conversation about what that means for your website. Once this comes up, we're going to change the way our website functions. Right now it's set that I'm the owner and Amber can edit it with me, and that so only these certain people can access it. Well, this is going to be a problem if I'm creating a website that I want parents to view, because if I want parents to view it, they're going to need to be able to access it publicly on the web. So I'm going to click here where it says specific people can access. And I'm going to go to change, and we're going to talk about these different options. Public on the web means that anybody can search for your website, find your website, and access it. They don't have to sign in. Anyone with the link means if they have that link URL, whether it's linked on a website page or if it's provided to them, that they'll be able to access your website as well without signing in. The next piece is anybody in Henderson County can find it. That's not necessarily helpful in this case because I'm making a classroom site. So I'm going to make sure that if this is for parents and the outside world, that I choose either the top option or the secondary option. Either one of these options is fine. I'm going to choose for now anyone with the link, and I'm going to click Save. And what that means is when I get back to this permissions screen, just to make sure that you understand what these settings are, anyone with the link can see my website. then I am the owner and can do all editing, and I have an actual other person here, Amber, who can actually edit it with me. So at this point, once my website, anybody with the link can view, I'm going to take this web address and copy it and open up an email to my webmaster and say, my website is ready, and you can link it from the staff page. So that's what I would do in the event that I was creating a public classroom site. Now, for those of you who have decided that you may want to use your Google site in a different way, let's say you want it in a more private way so just your students can access the information on your site, you can also keep it with specific people, and then you can add those specific people. If I want this to only be accessible to a certain group of students, I can either enter the group here. For example, I could say my first period students group, which is a mail list I've made, or I can enter individuals' names. We have some cases where certain grade levels or content areas are actually using Google Sites as kind of a PLC, and where they can share content and have sort of a private site to be able to have some dialogue and do some planning. So it's really up to you to decide whether you want this site to be public or for certain groups of people. That's why that planning guide is so helpful, so that you can really sit down, make some decisions. What kind of pages do you want, and who is your website for? Once you've finished with your page level permissions and you go back to your site, at that point you're ready to go. One thing that we do want to make sure that you know is it has in the past been an expectation that every teacher in the district have a website that they keep up to date. That has really shifted since there's so many different tools that you can use in so many different ways. And the feeling now is we want you to make sure that you create something. If you make it, that it's kept up to date, but it's certainly not a requirement to have it. We would love to help you have these websites and other Web 2.0 tools to use with your students and with your parents to keep an engaged digital environment, but we also want you to make sure it's something that you can manage. So we would like to remind you to make a plan. Think about who your website is for. Think about who will be able to see and edit your website. Think about the pages you're going to need and the resources that you're going to need. Get that framework together. Put your initial content on it, and once you're happy with it, make sure that you share that URL with your webmaster so it can be linked from your staff page. And also remember to consider adding your webmaster as an editor so that he or she will be able to provide assistance to you should you need it. Thanks for joining us for Google Sites Basics.